We are talking about a country and a people that is, in some areas, actually are traumatized still from the civil war, and the stress level of living as a family provider under those conditions, not knowing if you have housing or food or whatever the next day, that the level of stress in society is so high that it takes only its minuscule things that actually can blow out of all proportions. And also, I mean, the overall situation in Monrovia, I mean, no electricity, no water, no clean water, no sewage system, basically nothing works. And people get by on $1 to $2 a day. There is still very, very few Liberian doctors. There are very, very few Liberian psychiatrists who can help out with the former rebel soldiers, etc. And almost everything is donor-driven, some way, shape or form in Liberia.
I've been talking before about this idea of there being, because of the Civil War, a lost generation or a couple lost generations of particularly young men who have grown up under a very violent system, whose lives had been about violence, and now have to adjust to a civil society.
Unfortunately, they don't do that kind of change into civil society, because what they do is that they keep all their knowledge and all their networks and all that camaraderie that comes out of the rebel war, they just transfer that into civil society. So they kind of do small businesses, or they do small mechanical shops, etc., but they run them exactly the same way as they run their group or platoon or whatever they would call it during the rebel war. So all that command structure and all that hierarchy is still there. And when it comes to lost generation and traumatized people, I mean, the only thing that we know for sure is that it takes time. And that is also why we are trying to be extremely specific towards the Liberian government, that the Swedish government are involved in Liberia for the long run. And we have talked about time frames in terms of over the next elections. And that is in very sharp contrast to many other organizations or many other bilateral agreements, which actually basically comes down to short-term courses or workshops or things like that. And the only thing you can say for sure is that nothing changes by a workshop. You can give a couple of technical skills, you can talk about specific issues in a workshop, but if you don't stand fast and do this for the long run, it is a losing battle, of course.
Does it feel like a very tenuous situation, like the country could fall back into civil war any moment?
Not any moment, but I always say that the next civil war in countries like Liberia, not necessarily Liberia itself, but in countries like Liberia, is always 6 months ahead of us. And unfortunately, but when you say that, you also need to understand that in many aspects, Liberia is actually on the right way, but it only takes a small deviation from that kind of right path that could turn everything into total havoc again.